Hi everyone, welcome to Business for Builders podcast. My name is Max Peterson, CEO of Smith & Sons, and I am seriously pumped about this episode. Hold on to your seats because it's going to be a good one. We always want to bring value to our general contractor audience, and I think we have today we've got some real value, and we really want to sort of demonstrate practically what you can do to really turn an average business into a high-performance business. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a fella that I met 10 days ago via a podcast. He was actually with Gary Vaynerchuk. If you're in the building game and you're not getting enough leads, you seriously need to look at Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, Gary V. He's somebody that I bumped into online 2016, winter of 2016, and for me wanting to start a business back then, it was a fairly revelational moment to me. I thought, this is how I'm going to run my media campaigns. Everything that he's saying made sense. And so I was listening to Gary's podcast like I do religiously, and there was this fella out of Calgary who was on this show, and this guy's in the media business, let's say, and I'm like, I've got to talk to this chap. And so I think we bumped into each other on the podcast, and I contacted him. I reached out to him and said, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast. So he's been so kind to join me today. Jeff, it's great to have you with us, man. I'm really looking forward to where this next 20 or 30 minutes is going to go. And man, tell me about how is it that you got into the media business? Give me a bit of a rundown and a background where you started.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's pretty cool how the worlds collide when you just kind of follow like-minded people, and all of a sudden, 10 days later, we're jamming on a podcast, which is really cool. My digital kind of background, it's a bit of a long story, but I'll keep it concise. I first started working for a web design company in 2001. I was a graphic designer, production person. So 2001, working on big websites. That was the start of it. So I'm 20 years into this space. My journey has gone from designing websites to kind of running my own little web design company, doing logos, to working for Hockey Canada, managing their website content, to working for a restaurant company that had 100 restaurants across North America between 5 different brands. That's kind of where I really honed my craft for the last decade. And then recently, the last 2 years, I opened up my own digital shop that kind of services small, medium, large size businesses on everything digital.
Right. And look, we chatted about this offline. The whole reason that Business for Builders exists is that we want to develop a brand that gives value, really not asking for anything directly in return. Obviously, I'm in the franchise business where we sell, we join forces with general contractors. But this show is really all about delivering value. So, a lot of our listeners run, building companies that will either do renovations, remodels, or new homes. And one thing that stood out to me, which was quite ironic, because I was busy trying to explain, what we did, and you're like, whoa, my old man was in the building game for 35 years. Is that's how that went, isn't it?
Yeah. So my dad was a fireman, and then he built houses on his 4 days off for 35 years. Built our family home that they still live in.
Wow.
They built in 81. He built his BC place. He's the real deal. So I grew up on job sites, whether it was moving lumber from the delivery truck up to the 3rd floor, whether it was cleaning up garbage, just everything on a job site. So I grew up in the construction world. So that when you started talking, I quickly understood what was going on.
Yep. Which I think, I love, we talk a lot about in Smith & Sons, we talk a lot about the power of culture. 2 things you need to build a business. You need to have great company culture, understand the influence and the effect that it has on your bottom line, and you've got to be a really good talent scout. You've got to be able to bring people in. Gary talks about, hiring quickly, firing quickly, all that sort of stuff, and it's true. What I loved about your situation is that you kind of brought all those worlds together. You understand the power of good culture. You've got a pretty clear understanding of construction, here in Canada, and of course you've got the media and marketing skills. And that was a money shot. I didn't realize that until we started to chat, but I thought, well, that just reinforces why you're on the show. Yeah. So look, I think what we want to do is we want to get pretty practical to really help our audience take something away, so they can literally drive to the job site and be thinking about this as we're talking. And then whilst they're working all day, they're like, yeah, I've really got to mobilize something. Because from my point of view, you know, a lot of guys, one of the key things when I talk to them about the opportunity as a franchised operator with Smithies, it's like I got to go for their gaps and deficiencies. I got to find out where they're lacking. And more often than not, top of the list or in the top 3 for sure is I need more leads. And, you know, in this day and age, the newspaper is just not going to cut it. You got to be digital. And so the minute you say that to a lot of these guys, we're really good at knocking nails into wood, but we're not particularly good at managing social media, right? And so it's a massive vulnerability. And so you got a couple of choices. You either have someone work full time, which is fiscally not practical, and of course the other option is to outsource that. And so you know what we want to do is give them some options here for right now, and just look into that and maybe take a deep dive into some of those options. And I know we quickly chatted about that. So
that sounds great.
What do you think? So let's treat me as a builder. Where do you start? So let's say we had all these guys just start to blow your inbox up with inquiry about, hey, can you help me? You know, I need more leads. I need to figure out what my preferred client profile is. I need to understand what my messaging is to that preferred client profile. Help me, Jeff. What is it that we can do? Where would you start, man? Because I can easily play the role of a GC that's not really up to date with how we go and put that messaging together. Where do you start?
Yeah. I think I like to keep things very simple, and I think the process is simple. And even for a little more context, I've worked for a custom builder in Calgary for the last 2 years. I also worked for a high-end cabinet builder in Calgary for a while, running their social. So I understand this space very deeply. And the way, you know, you as the GC, the conversation is pretty straightforward. You know, there's a bunch of people, a bunch of characters, a bunch of businesses out there offering the same service that you are. And the only way you're going to separate yourself is your brand. And brand is a dirty word. You know, it's a dirty marketing buzzword, and people always, you know, I don't like using it that often, but it's so relevant. And the first move, and probably the only move, is to build out your brand. And the only way you do that is to have somebody, whether you, the GC, the owner, is on site, capturing content, video, photos, showing people what is happening day to day. That is the move for every builder out there. And the proof is, you think about the building shows or the car shows or the home gardening shows, like, why are these things on TV? Well, there's a personality in front of a camera, and all they do is just talk about the process. That's it.
And so can you explain to me the difference between branding and more lead generation? Because those are two different beasts. Because what you're alluding to with the branding thing is not right hook call to action, is it?
Correct. Yeah. So, and the interesting thing with your business is that you can help on the backside of the lead gen. So branding is the long play. It's not selling your product and service over and over. You know, you're not saying we do high-end custom homes, or we do windows, or we do, like, you can only say that so many times, and eventually everyone's going to tune you out.
Yes.
Brand is everything inside your head and everything you do day to day. That's your brand. Mm-hmm. And it is so simple when you figure that out. Branding doesn't have to be using the same camera, using the same logo, using the same colors. That's all part of it. Mm-hmm. Brand is you. Brand is, you know, if your name's on the door and you are the owner, operator of this renovation company, you need to be the face and the voice. And if you don't want to go there, then you have to have somebody on your team that can support you, whether it's a site super that can run around day to day and just show progress. Like it is so basic, but it is so hard to do because most people aren't comfortable telling stories.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got two areas I want to go. You know, I see it all the time. I mean, obviously I scan Instagram a lot for just to see what other building companies are doing. And it makes me throw up in my mouth, Jeff, the amount of Instagram bios from builders that say quality work, great service. Like, oh my God, like vanilla. Are you shitting me? It's the same rhetoric over and over. And you know, the worst thing about that, and this is all Gary's fault, is that there is no empathy and there is no value to the client. And and it blows me away that they think, but you know what? That's the level of marketing and branding that we get taught as general contractors. We think that people are actually interested in us saying quality service and a great finished product, because that's it. We're a one-trick pony.
Yeah, it's also uneducated marketing people that are telling them to do that.
Okay, never thought about that, but all right, slap them in the face. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not being ignorant, but it's, as I talk to more business owners, and they're apprehensive of figuring out digital marketing because they've been burned by multiple characters before.
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm definitely not sitting here on a high horse saying that I know everything. I'm just based on experience. There's a lot of people selling marketing services that really there's just no value to them.
Yeah.
And the interesting, back to your question though, building brand is that basic. It's telling your story over and over in a creative way. The lead gen, referring back to what you're up to, like ad spend in the background, driving people to a landing page on a website to create leads. There's the perfect combination. You do your brand all day, every day.
Yep.
And then in the background, you have these ads running that are driving, they're based on intent, that are driving leads. You put those two together.
Yeah.
And people can start doing the research. Okay, we recommend this person. Okay, I'm going to go research that person. Oh my, they're on Instagram all day, and there's this character talking, and I like how he speaks. I like his mannerisms, his body language.
Yeah.
I feel like I have some trust built with this person already before I've even met them.
Yeah.
That's the long play, which I think is very difficult to see, and it's hard to do, but I think it's the only option when you want to play this thing out over years.
Yeah, I think with what we're trying to do, to your point, it's a lot of guys, because, so we have a bunch of, company core values, which are in our conference room / training room. And one of those is that we are deliberate, not desperate. And I think a lot of general contractors, because their marketing is not, really on point, they get 2 or 3 inquiries a month, and they have to give those people quotes, and they've got to at least win one of those jobs. So there is no, they're not intentional about how they roll, because they're subject to the little bit of, inquiry that they do get. And then they end up working for clients that they don't want to work for or shouldn't be working for. And then they start hating people because now they've done more negative, had more negative interactions with the, we've had so many, really good experiences with clients. They're out there, but it's, I think with what I was getting at is that, a lot of these builders go the right hook because they have to. And yet what you're saying is it really is in alignment with kind of what we're doing, is that we want our website and all of our digital branding to do all the heavy lifting, so that people go and look at our websites, look at our social media whilst they're in the decision-making process. And they almost, when they do come to us, certainly one of my builders, and I don't like this term, but he says, Max, I just feel like an order taker. I can qualify quite firmly. I can decide in advance who I actually even want to give a bid or a quote to. And then the people that we end up working for, we end up having a fairly good relationship. And 9 times out of 10, we're not perfect, obviously, but 9 times out of 10, that whole process, and this is why I'm saying that just branding and marketing, there's some other things that we need to establish, like sales processes and the way you estimate and the way you actually talk and interact with clients. All of that's got to be covered as well. But we can develop that on the backside of some good branding. But yeah, I think if they were to understand the concept of what you're alluding to, is that you have to do that branding first, put it out there. So set the bait in the water and then wait, and then carry on and keep adding to that that branding initiative. And then all of a sudden, and I'm telling you, and Gary talks about this, you've got to be patient. And I just kicked off one guy in Edmonton. And, he was the first guy in Edmonton. He's a young fella, so he's got that against him. He doesn't have the maturity, or doesn't look old and washed up like me. And he doesn't have 32 years experience like I do. So his credibility, so he really relies on the air cover of the brand to help him sell. And this month he'll close a couple of deals for over $100,000, and, he's kicking it on. But he's had to be patient because he's hungry. And I'm saying, dude, it takes time. You've got to allow yourself to go through the process. But I think once you cross that bridge and you've got the branding, like a lot of these guys might have their own local brand running around their city or their town. Once you develop that, you don't ever have to go back around. You've just got to maintain that momentum as it relates to brand awareness, essentially.
Completely.
So one thing that you talked about was, I think, let's say whether it's our franchise general contractors in Smith and Sons, or let's say it's a guy, I don't care, out of BC who's going to engage your services, Jeff. You really rely on his boots on the ground operation or participation to be able to feed you the kind of content that you're going to need in the raw to be able to help turn that round and produce some kind of branding and brand awareness campaigns and initiatives. So I'll get you to talk about that. Like, again, if I was to say, righto, Jeff, what do you need me to do? I'm in Vernon, you're in Calgary. How can we really ramp up my branding in this town?
Yeah, there's two ways to do it. Either you find the time and energy to do it yourself, and you could leverage a coach, like a digital coach, like me, for example, that could kind of arm you with tactics and best practices. So you could essentially pull out your phone every day and do something based on potentially a content calendar that's built out, or here's some buckets that you need to be posting within, and you could do it yourself. And it's all possible. It takes time and energy to do it, and interest. If that's not possible, then it's a combination of in-house and external. So somebody on your team capturing content on a daily basis, uploading it to Dropbox, and having a digital company like mine take all the content, package it up, and then schedule it to go out on their social media platforms. So unfortunately, it's too expensive to hire an agency, a digital shop, to go to site, capture content, do post-production, and then schedule it to go out. I don't think most contractors can afford that or be interested in doing that. So I think the only way to make it happen is do it all your own with a coach in your back pocket that can kind of help you get to the end goal quicker, or the combination of somebody on site capturing content, talking to camera, taking photos, that kind of content, and then forwarding it over to a digital shop to kind of to put a bow on it and then schedule it to go out. So I think it's a team approach if you can't do it all by yourself.
I think that most builders would be in a position because they've had very little, if any, success on the digital front. Like, I can go into most Facebook pages and 80% of them haven't posted for 12 months, or they're very sparse. They'll post once a quarter. Like, and you can just tell they're just like, you can sense the body language in their eyes. It's like, but they want to win more jobs, but they just, the whole branding thing is just non-existent, right?
Well, and unfortunately it's short-sighted, right? Like, at the end of the day, you think about the businesses or brands that have been around forever. They've done a good job marketing themselves. They've told their story, and they're not just selling. Like, I love talking about Nike. They rarely make an ad that's talking about a new shoe that's worth $149. They sell me on a lifestyle, somebody athletic doing something, swimming, biking, running, just living a lifestyle that I connect with. And they've got to that point after years and years and years. And I think when somebody decides that digital is not for them, unfortunately, their runway is going to be short. Like, when there's the younger kid out in Edmonton starting off, like, he's going to be hungry. He's going to know that he needs to leverage digital. So eventually it's going to catch up to you. It's not going to happen in a year or two, but all of a sudden, if your leads or if your jobs go from, 100 a month to 100K a month down to, you're doing a small bathroom for $8,000, then what?
Yeah.
Then you're going to panic. Then you're going to panic and figure out, okay, how do I advertise? Well, I have no money to advertise because I got no jobs. So now you're in this death circle. And
it's a downward spiral.
Yep. Brand always wins.
And it's this, to your point about Nike, I often think about Coca-Cola. I'm like, why would they continue to advertise? Well, there's no right hook going on there. Again, it's all about, life is better with Coca-Cola almost. They just...
Those polar bears, like those polar bears at Christmas, like, we expect to see those damn bears every Christmas. Then it just, and then when we're walking down the aisle at the grocery store or at the gas station, there's a red can. And we're like, oh, I trust that red can.
Yeah. And so, so like you said, the downward spiral for general contractors is they complain about not having one thing, but they're not doing the other thing that's actually going to fill the gap.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
And sorry,
Go ahead.
I wanted to, the kicker is, and what I'm finding is that the people at the top, the owners, that's where the issue is. If they don't believe in digital, or they're not comfortable with it, they at least have to admit that digital is the way the world is going, and then they have to be smart enough to leverage somebody on their team to handle it.
Yeah.
And
sure.
and then if they don't have that person in house, that's a different problem. But there's got to be somebody on your team that you can pay an extra, whatever, 4 hours a week to essentially just, at the end of the workday, go back through the job site, grab some videos, grab some photos of what just happened, and then, either upload it, like post it, or send it to somebody to post it. Like, you have to hack the system to make it work for yourself versus being this, whatever
Victim.
age you want to be, 45, 50, 60-year-old owner GC that's like, I got a flip phone. I don't even know what Instagram is. If you're going to say that out loud, then, you don't have to waste your breath even trying to help them understand, but they also have to understand that there's a giant market that they're going to miss. And if they're okay with that, then just keep on doing their thing.
Well, I think I said in my last podcast that, or maybe the one before, we talked about how that you've got to live outside your comfort zone. I mean, change is a part of success. If you don't move, you can't steal second base with your foot on first base. You got to go. Simple as that. I think there's got to be some change, and I would encourage our audience to strongly consider, if you are dissatisfied with what's happening in your business currently, then doing the same old is going to generate the same old. So at some point you've got to take a break and you've got to make a run for it. And I often talk to guys, when I'm talking to guys about franchising, it's super unorthodox or not very common. It's very uncommon in Canada. And but I talk about how at 42 I moved from Australia to Canada because I married a Canadian in 95 and we got 6 Canadian kids. And so they're all got some Canadian swagger and passports and whatnot. But, I don't know really of any other move that, even in business, or whether it's moving from, print media to digital, it can't be as scary as moving your wife and 6 kids halfway around the world with 19 suitcases. That's what we did. You should have seen us in LAX, man. It was crazy. I walked up to the customs guy at LAX and he said, "So how many bags you got?" And I said, "See that blonde chick down there, about 6 deep in kids? 19 suitcases. That's all us. That's our whole life." And so, man, it's, I guess, and it took me 3 years to get to that position. It took me 3 years of winning all the arguments and then finally going, you know what, I feel like I've got to make this change. And so I think if there's builders out there that really sort of think about, they're so traditional. And if I think it's worse, and, Gary talks about having second generation come into the business with different eyes. And I think the influence from daddy builder that says, "This is the way we've always done it, son," it makes it super hard to, try and adapt and adjust to the marketplace. So some guys and girls out there might be struggling in that capacity, but I think it's do or die. You have to move, or you're going to watch that legacy slowly fade away and get left behind.
Yep. And based on the work I've been doing in Calgary, here's another scenario what's playing out. The old dogs that haven't adapted and figured this out, the next generation of architects and designers are living on Instagram. And how do you think they're connecting with builders or other people in the industry? They're looking on Instagram for people who are active. So now it's turning into a networking tool behind the scenes in the industry. And if you're not there, you're not even part of the conversation.
You don't exist. As simple as that. You're not even going to be a happening thing.
That got me thinking. The other move, like we've talked about creating content and building brand, and how simple and straightforward it really is. It's hard to execute, but the idea is very simple. The other piece to digital, especially on Instagram, if I was a builder and I needed to, build my network out, I would be living on Instagram looking for architects and designers. I would follow them. I would like and comment every single thing they do. I would do that for 8 weeks. And on the 9th week, I would send them a DM and I'd be like, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing. Do you have time to meet up? I'd love to just kind of learn about your process and your projects and what you're interested in and where your company's going." And, I've done this for the builder I work for. And as long as you are a respectful person online and the work you post is good, 9 times out of 10, that person you DM is going to say, yep, let's meet up. So it turns into a networking tool versus a one-way like push.
Yeah.
Like I'm just yelling content. I'm just pushing content. If you do that and also network behind the scenes,
Yeah.
it is the most effective way to connect with like-minded people in the industry that you need to be in.
But like you just said, it's 9, you said 8 weeks and then 9 weeks. And that 9 weeks is going to go by whether we like it or not. But where, builders can be that impatient. They're like, no, I want to like his stuff today. And then next week I'm going to call him. And it's like, whoa.
Dude, think about, and this is an old school Gary. This is like old school Gary V told this little scenario. Think about a cocktail party.
Yeah.
And
you're talking the dude move, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You walk into a cocktail party and you get lumped into a circle of 6 or 7 people.
Yeah.
And there's that one person that's just talking about themselves and selling you on their investment idea or their real estate idea or their car deal, whatever. And right away, everybody's just like, this feels greasy. This guy, I can't trust this person.
It's unattractive.
It's horrible. But if you're in this group and you wait and you just engage in the conversation, and eventually one of these characters is gonna be like, hey, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, this is what I do. So it is patience. It's so cliche to say, but it's you think about the real world and how networking works, and just if you are and not all people can do this. This is the other variable, right? Some people might just be that shitty used car salesman. And that's their only move.
You mean they lack self-awareness?
Yeah, totally. Totally. So I think that networking piece is a big miss for builders right now, because we all know, if you're following everybody in Vernon, all the architects and designers, right away who the top 3 or that looks like the busiest architects and busiest designers are. And if you're a builder, you need to interact with them often.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I talk to a lot of our GCs, both in the initial training and also in ongoing, even to make a point. We talk about touch points with the client. Yeah. So, a lot of guys, and even in training, in the initial training, I will talk about the importance of foreplay, do that well, and intercourse is rock and roll. And because everyone wants to jump straight to the deal. Yep. And, I've actually said to my guys, you will not go for a close, and I'm all about closing. There's no question. You have to know when it moves from a sell to a close, and you can feel it. Intuition will tell you when it's time, when they start having buying questions come out. But yep. I've banned my guys going to the close until they've had 8 touch points. I don't care if it's phone calls, emails, text messages, but you must not move to a close. 8 to 10 touch points before you move to a close, because there is such a wall of distrust between the homeowner or the client and the builder. It needs time for you to build rapport and deconstruct the wall of distrust. There is no hack to that.
No, and this is a very personal industry, right? You're touching somebody's home, and usually that's not a cheap touch. So
no, you
need to build the trust. I love the 8 to 10 touch points, because that's laying the foundation for trust, which then at least there's more potential that you're going to close.
It's no different to you saying that you need to get on, if there's 10 architects in your town, you need to follow them, and you need to like and comment, positively with no right hook. And you need to do that for 8 to 10 weeks before you go in and want that meeting. And you still can't go there with an expectation that, well, because I've done that, you've got to give me a job. You've literally got to go there and be happy with that this guy or gal is going to reject you. That's the game.
That's it. And be okay with the win being, okay, now this architect knows my name. This person has met me. They've felt my energy. They understand my vision of what I believe in. And maybe in the next 12 months, I get a bid, maybe not.
You might not get it at the first meeting after 10 weeks of liking and everything, on their Instagram page, but maybe in 6 months there'll be a window and they'll go, well, that builder was actually really professional. Yep. And he's been consistent. And I think a lot of the time, the flash in the pan, it's like me wanting to, lose 40 pounds and get fit. I have this brief moment where I go, geez, that'd be good. And they go, no, screw that. I need a hamburger. and it's like the result is only going to come about by persistent, consistent effort.
Which is, all these things are so basic. When you break it all down, it's basic human moves.
Yes.
The hard thing is, as a business owner, running a construction company, I can't imagine the amount of things that are going on. I have a loose understanding, but I really don't understand the full depth of what's happening. And I think it's daunting to all of a sudden for, guys like us to be talking about marketing and giving these tactics. Yep. And all of a sudden these folks are like, okay, that feels like an extra hour and a half a day of work. Okay, where am I going to find an hour and a half? How am I going to, and then they're going to rank it, from finding products to deadlines to job site problems. And then all of a sudden it's marketing. And you and I know where the marketing thing falls on that list of priorities. And unfortunately, that's why usually this falls on deaf ears.
But it shouldn't.
I can't do it.
Because your business lives and dies on your ability to market or to do branding in this day and age.
Yep.
It lives and dies on your ability to deliver that. So look, I might just take it one step further and go, it's probably fairly, the way we interact with our GCs, I know that I've got guys at both ends of the scale. I've got one guy that's got 5 employees, he's got an office, he's got 3 trucks on the road, he'll probably do 3 million a year or 2 to 3 million. And then I've got another guy who's just a one-man band and he might crack $250,000. So, but they both, what I find the similarity for doing what you might want them to do, Jeff, as far as giving you that raw footage, is that it's one thing to take the raw footage, but the challenge for us guys who have been taught how to build houses or renovate is now converting that to something or producing something that can go into your, into the branding message of your business. Yeah. And I think that's why, you have to align yourself with somebody like yourself, Jeff, who's got the skills. I know in my office, it's easy for me to supply a suite or a computer suite and get the subscription from Adobe. But to park your ass in that seat and then go, oh, now I've got to try and use the tools. It's no different than you, Jeff, could roll down the road to Home Depot, buy a truckload of tools, but you can't use any of them at a high level, So I think that, I've seen what some of our team does is that they actually love the fact that they can just take photos and then upload them to either a Google file or a Dropbox. And then Jill grabs those and creates a marketing message for that area. And talks about what we're doing in that area. And
it works, but I think, and this is another Garyism, it's like content at scale. So that the issue is like one photo a week is not going to build your brand. Nope. And then all of a sudden, here's what happens, right? So you can imagine, here's how it plays out. You get in a partnership with somebody and they're like, okay, I'm going to take a photo a week. I'm going to send it to you. You're going to post it for me. And every month you're going to bill me and I have no leads. Well, you've given me 4 pictures. It's impossible to build a brand in a month. And so there's not going to be the value, but if they can, you imagine sending a photo a day and every day your brand is out there posting. And also you can hire the person like me to interact with architects and designers and set up meetings. Like that's all possible, but it's at scale. This isn't like, here's one photo every 4 weeks. Why am I only getting, I getting no likes and why am I getting no leads? Like,
so I'll counter your Garyism with another Garyism, and Jill loved this one because she's actually a professional, and then I throw down the speed over perfection, and she freaking hated that. She's like, "Oh, you shitting me? No, you can't do that." But when you're talking about content at scale and you're talking about branding. It is the winner. And right now, because we've got a B2C, like a business to client and a business to business relationship, so we run this thing binary, we've got a whiteboard, literally old school, where we've got one side's got recruitment and one side's got retail. And so what we post on average, I would say 30 to 40 pieces of content per pillar. So we're doing between 60 and 80 pieces, sometimes 100 a week, between those 2 initiatives or those 2 objectives. And it really comes, and I printed out the Gary deck, the one that he put out about how to create pillar content, 62 pieces of content today or whatever it was. And we don't go that radical. But when I showed that to Jill, it was like, can that be done? And now it's something that she's so fluent with. She's got such a good, and it was difficult for her because she's like, 1 minute she's talking retail, 1 minute she's talking recruitment. So that confused her for a little bit. But, I think what we've got to do is with the speed over perfection, you just need a lot of raw content.
Well, it's a job site. Like the
Dude.
only time it's sexy is when it's painted and all the furniture's in there. That's the only time. But the rest of the time, it's bare wood, drywall, dust. Like it's ugly. But me as a consumer, again, I'll go back to those TV shows. I
Yep.
like watching progress. I love watching car shows. Like
We all love to be having a story told. That's what you're
yep,
talking about. We
that's
love
it.
just watching the story.
Totally. So
Yep.
if a builder can get on site and they've decided to put in 3-ply windows instead of 2-ply, and they've adjusted the framing, they've done something, right, to just combat moisture, humidity, all those things. If they can capture that and they tell that story and they tell me why 3-pane is
Yep.
an extra 30%, but over the long term, over the next 15 years of this house, your house will remain calm, quiet, and stable
Mm.
if you spend this money up front. Imagine, and then me a consumer, I'm like, oh, what's he saying? Oh, he's educating me about how to make better decisions. Like that. There it
Yeah.
is.
I often get, I get the guys talking to me about the fact that they want me they want our branding team to put out content on subject matter that they've constantly got to cover every time they go to a meeting, or they constantly get asked about, a subject,
Yep.
in and around kitchen renovations or whatever.
Yep.
And they're
Totally.
saying, we want the messaging to talk to that.
Yep.
And so now it's becoming, for us, I mean, it is an irreplaceable tool because it gives us, I've got to do a podcast later on called Leverageability, or Leverage Gives You Lifestyle. Because once you sort of get the program sorted out, you can very much just wash, rinse, and repeat. And it actually will turn you not into a salesperson, but more of an order taker. Like whenever you go to a fast food outlet, the person behind the desk isn't selling you on how good their hamburgers are. The menu's up there. You just tell me what you want, and I'm ready to take your order. And we're not there yet, but I'm telling you, there's a lot less friction in our sales process because of the branding. And so we see our guys just uploading stuff all the time. One of the guys has got a great camera on his Android phone, and some of the stuff he puts out is just so awesome. And the mixing or the producing of it, the way Jill does it, it really does speak to the audience, and it really does give them some insight as to what you might not see. Everyone sees the finished kitchen and this, that, and the other, but to be able to go inside to the inner workings of a project, it is entertaining as.
I agree.
Something that's really entertaining, and this is probably a little bit of a frivolous pivot, so brace yourself. What's your opinion about TikTok? How do we use that in construction?
Dude, well, it's just videos, right? It's not just people dancing. It's just straight videos.
Yeah.
And I would, if you're going to make a video for Instagram, you could easily make a video for TikTok. Like there's no, well, here's my latest example. I took, based off that, that 100-page doc from Gary, right? Take your content, chop it up, use it everywhere. So of course I do that. And so I cut out this little moment of my podcast talking about when I was 17 playing hockey. I got to go skate with the Calgary Flames down at the Saddle Dome and practice with the Flames. And so I'm in the middle of a podcast talking to my guest, and I tell this story. I chop it up, I put it on Instagram, put it on LinkedIn, and put it on TikTok.
Okay.
So LinkedIn, the thing gets in front of over 2,000 people, and I got like 1,000 people in my network. So it goes off pretty good. I put the thing on TikTok, and it's got over 11,000 plays.
Views. Yeah.
And I don't know anybody. I got like 25 people to follow me. I'm a nobody. So it's like it's TikTok is, here's the thing. Like, yes, it's young. Instagram started off as just like a high-end, pretty photo thing. Now it's turned into like the network.
Yep.
Facebook started off as a college hookup thing, and now it's like everybody. It's so the trick is to get on early and just do your thing. Don't try and be somebody you're not. So if you're just taking photos of, a chop saw going down, a drill, like somebody screwing in a light bulb, or, flipping on the flame of the new fireplace, or turning on the tap of the new kitchen sink, and you're just capturing these little moments, and you just do that.
Yeah.
Then when TikTok ages up, you've been doing it for 2 years, you're the pro. You know everything.
It is definitely one of our biggest challenges currently, is to hack that thing, because the algorithm seems like a moving target.
Well, I wouldn't even overthink it at this point. I would just do it. Like, it is so fresh right now. You've listened to Gary off
Mm.
obviously a ton. It is so fresh. There's not a lot to figure out. You just have to go there and do it.
Well, it's still you've still got that organic exposure both with LinkedIn and with TikTok.
Totally.
We're nobodies, and we're sort of going okay. I think one of our videos has got over 300,000 views,
Totally.
and you stand back and go, why did that video do that and that one not do that? Like,
Well,
there's no rhyme or reason. It's just
nope,
doing.
but and yep, and the only way to combat that feeling is to do it at scale.
Yeah.
It's like he always says, if you have enough going out the door, it just does not matter what things do, because tomorrow something else is going up.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, I just, I love the whole digital thing. Ever since I started listening to Gary, I thought it was, I thought this is how I'm going to build. This is the platform I'm going to build, figuratively speaking, how I'm going to build the business. And of course, the other thing is, I think empathy, which goes a long way to your point about, work with architects, follow their stuff, like their stuff. You have to be patient. You have to apply a high level of empathy in your marketing message. And I think it really is it's the first thing that you have to get sorted out as a builder. Because what I find is my guys, we give them the leads, and then what it does is exposes another deficiency. So it's sort of like, okay, now we had that problem, we've kind of got that solved, and we understand some of the dynamics around that. Now it's exposed you in another area. And, and so it really is it's adventurous. Yes, it's difficult. And yes, a lot of the guys do get overwhelmed with the growth of the business, but don't we all want to 10x our business? That's the stereotypical kind of thing. I mean, I'm happy if my guys 3x their business every year, because I think that's enough. 10x is a lot of, it's maybe, it's exciting, but I don't think it's sustainable. And it's too brutal on guys that just step out from doing 150 and now they're doing $1 million a year. That's a brutal jump. That's a big jump. You're talking massive human resource infrastructure to implement. And I just don't think it's healthy long term. So, but I would love, if the guys loved what they've just heard, and, if they've got any questions, like, feel free to hit us both up. I really want them, I'd love it. Can you just give us a rundown? So if we've got GCs that are sitting there absolutely salivating and frothing and go, this is the money shot. I got to talk to this Jeff character. Because we're going to put all your stuff in the copy and across all the platforms that we launch this podcast. But just give us a quick, how do you want us to get in contact with you? Obviously, you're not going to give out your cell number because that would be suicide. But what's the best way that these our audience can get a hold of you and get in touch and maybe have a quick chat with you about the opportunity or options?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I have two things going on. I have my personal branding, which is jeffhumphreys.ca, and I have my business website, which is shortlinecreative.com. So it's the links will be below, like you said, and I'm totally game to talk. Like, I am, I'm at a point right now where I have the bandwidth to chat with people. I'm not slammed 24/7, and this construction industry is, close to home for me. I really understand it. And the other thing I want to be very clear is I'm not coming at this from a hard sell. If I can help educate somebody, arm them to go make better decisions. If they go try it for a year and they come back and be like, okay, I tried it, I need your help. Okay, great. Like, this is, if they are salivating and they want to talk, which is great, just understand that I'm not gonna put a price in front of them to talk to them. So I'm totally open to chat with these folks.
Yeah, it's sort of like, when I'm chatting to guys and girls about the franchise, it's more when we talk about the opportunity, it's more of a marriage. So it's not like me selling a car where I've just got to transact with you and then, hand you the keys and you're off and I'm off selling the next guy. Yep. What I'm doing is it's a joining of forces. And I think what general contractors have got to understand, that there is no silver bullet. There is no secret sauce as such, although the system that we're talking about, it is an infinite game business, and it is the long game that we play. And so what we want to say is, yes, using digital is the answer, but it's not something that's over the weekend we're going to nail this. Because I've lived it and breathed it. It doesn't happen. We've got not much, penetration into the market, but we're starting to get traction, and we're starting to see that people say, hey, I've been to your website, I've viewed all your testimonials from your past clients, and we think we want Smith & Sons to do the job. They've got to understand that if they approach you, there's a high level of maturity that's required, high level of patience, and also understand the commitment is long term. You are not, it might appear witchcraft and sorcery, but it is very practical, and it's going to require a lot of effort on their part just to get. And I talk to my guys about, they're always on the runway, and they get a little bit of speed up, a little bit of pressure under their wings. They'll get a little bit of uplift, and then it's Christmas, and then she'll back onto the tarmac again. And so what we're trying to do is you're going to use a lot of gas to get to 30 or 40,000 feet. But once you get there, your cruise speed at 35 or 30 or 40,000 feet is very sustainable. But the hard work. So as long as these, builders that are maybe listening to this understand what the level of engagement is going to require, and you understand that there's patience and it is the long game, and it's going to require consistency, I have no guarantees. There is so much opportunity. I've got 2 franchises in this town that have got 40,000 people, and I've got both of them that have said to me on their retail lead report this week they want 0 leads. Matter of fact, one of the guys didn't even submit the retail lead report, so that's an automatic 0. And then the other guy doesn't want any leads either because he's slammed. And they're both saying to me, Max, do you think you could sell another franchise in this area? See, they don't suffer from an opportunity blindness. They understand that this little old town did $149 million worth of renos, and these characters are only going to do $3 to $4 million between them. There is so much opportunity. Don't even get me started about what's happening in Calgary or the major centers like Vancouver or even, even in Ontario. It's ridiculous. Totally. And there's so much low-hanging fruit, Jeff, because the majority of general contractors do not do what Smith & Sons is doing. And I would encourage them to look at what we're doing and plagiarize the shit out of it.
Totally.
Don't get that creative. If something's working, it's like the best thing for me was Gary Vee. It's just like, I'm just going to do everything he tells me to do because I don't really have an option. And sure enough, 4 or 5 years down the track, I am absolutely committed to just carrying on the way that we're going.
And the crazy thing is that he has given us, both of us, the blueprint.
Yes.
But, based on my conversation with him, it is a very, very small percentage of people that actually execute on it.
It's amazing.
So,
blows me away.
It's crazy, but you've done it, I've done it, which is why it's an easy connection, right? We can both see each other doing our thing, and it's not we don't have to figure each other out. We already understand each other because we just watch what we're doing, and that's it.
That's why I was so confident when I heard you on that podcast. I thought this will work. So I'm super excited to see what's going to transpire in the next week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and where we can positively affect general contractors that say, I remember that podcast, or I've just listened to that podcast. It totally changed my attitude towards branding, marketing, and my business. And then when I implemented that 3 or 4 months later, all of a sudden my ability to sell elevated, the quality of clients was different, my ability to actually put more money on projects and actually start to make a profit, because a lot of guys will wind down their price to get the job. So it's a race to the bottom. I just want to change the mentality. I really want to actually affect the industry on a global scale. We can do it so much better, and there's people out there that actually want quality service for real and are willing to pay for it. And I think we undermine our own success so much. And, I think that we can understand, and this is why I want builders to talk to me about the programming side of their business, but then I want them to have somebody they can talk to about their media aspect of the business. And the best thing is with the systems that we have within the franchise group, where they can then connect with you. You and I have a very, common understanding of digital and culture. Dude, it's such a win-win. I think it's a massive advantage. Any of the guys out there that are watching or listening to this right now, this is an absolute game changer. And I really look forward to some of the feedback that's going to come, whether it's from you, third party, or whether it comes directly to me from these guys to say, mate, really enjoyed that podcast. Gave me so much of an understanding of the landscape, and it really changed the trajectory of my business. Man, here we go, another Garyism just to finish off. Legacy over currency, baby. It makes me feel so much better. We can make a lot of money, but like Gary talks about having a bunch of people show up at his funeral. That's what really motivates the heck out of me to do what I'm doing. So, any last thoughts, Jeff, before we close out, man? It's been awesome, man. We should do it again if we can find something else to talk about.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I think it. It's so basic what has to happen. It's so simple. The examples are out there. You literally need to tell your story over and over and over in a creative way. And if you can't do it, you need to hire somebody to do it. And that is going to be what allows you to win over the long term. You're going to create more inbound traffic. You're not going to, it's just, people are going to know who you are and they're going to want to work with you. So you're going to attract like-minded people. I think this blueprint is the only way to make it happen.
Agreed. Alrighty then, Jeff, thanks so much for joining with us. We really appreciate your insight, and we'll hopefully follow up with something else maybe in the future. If you like what you heard, like, share, comment. If you know someone that could benefit from this information, be sure to send them the link. And if you've got any questions, you can certainly leave a comment, or you can email me at max@businessforbuilders.ca, or you can text me at 250-241-8866, and we will respond as promptly as we can. Have a great day. Talk to you next time.